So I have people, say it's going to start at 3 o'clock, and I have people get on a few minutes before, and I have everyone kind of introduce themselves and tell me just a little bit about their background, who they are, and maybe, why they wanted to even come learn about this. And I have a lot of people that say, I don't know, Rosie invited me. She told me to be here. I'm like, okay, that's absolutely fine. But sometimes they have a health challenge or a financial challenge. And so that you kind of put that in the back of your head, like having a conversation. And then we say, because I found that if you tell testimonials up front, people are very interested because then they automatically start thinking of themselves or people they love.
Yeah.
And so I say we're about to talk about something a little scientific. We'll keep it relatively simple, and they're called Redox Signaling Molecules. But before we get started, let us tell you a little bit about what these molecules have done for us. And then who is ever on, say if it's me, say if Jackie was on, she'd tell her testimonial, I'll tell mine. And the host, if there is a host, would tell their testimonial. If it's just a one-on-one, you just tell yours, of course. And you can almost feel them kind of leaning forward going, wow, it did that, it did this, it helped her eyes, it helped her breathing. What is this stuff? So then they're very interested in learning. And then I just very simply, literally simply explain. I don't go into a whole bunch of different Krebs cycle, this, that. I just say these are molecules that are created in almost every cell of your body. And they have two main functions: to turn on and activate antioxidants. And do you know what antioxidants are? I always ask that. Most people do at this point, but some people don't. And then their other job is to allow the cells to communicate and signal. And your cells always have to be communicating and signaling if you are living, because they're telling you to breathe and your heart beats and you don't have to think about any of it because your cells are communicating. And one of their biggest jobs then, since you are supposed to be healthy, your body's supposed to be taking care of cancers that crop up, because most people know that at any certain point you have cancer in your body. Well, in a healthy person, that cancer is, those cells are told to kill themselves off, and healthy cells next to them replace themselves with other healthy cells. That's what's supposed to be happening. But when you don't have enough communication, that doesn't happen. So I try to make it understandable for them. And so they cross the blood-brain barrier. So any damaged cell anywhere they find, and they send a very clear signal to the immune system. And then the immune system goes, wow, okay, now I know where to go. So now I can go in and repair and replace the damaged cells. And because of that, that's why this sounds too good to be true, because damaged cells are anything that you can think of, any disease, any injury, blood pressure, damaged cells, anything that you think of that's off in your body is damaged cells.
Mhm.
And I think they finally get the idea. And I kind of leave it at that because I know there's going to be questions later. I tell them it regulates literally every system in the body. So the endocrine, the circulatory, the nervous, everything. So that really pretty much covers anybody that anything that anybody's thinking of that they might have wrong with them. And I say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I kind of show them some before and after pictures. And I say, this is what's happening on the outside of your body. The same thing's happening on the inside. You just don't take pictures on the inside very often. Some doctors do. But I can tell them that this happened to Ray Doon in 21 days. And people are always impressed by the neck picture. And this is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Marty Morin. And I said, he's a research veterinarian. And he only put it on half of his face because he wanted the same cells and the same age cells. So he had a baseline. And you can definitely tell the difference. And a lot of times I'll tell the story about how he did it for 2 months and he looked like he'd had a stroke. And his wife told him, if you don't start putting it on your other side, I'm leaving you. So, because it was really weird to look at him. Heel cracks it disappeared and went away in 1 week. Puffiness under the eyes, lines. And, depending, I try to be pretty compliant, but, this lady had a disease that caused that rash on her face and stuff. And within just 2 months, you couldn't even tell she had it. She could have been scarred for life. This man had a skin tag on his eye. Their damaged cells, they got the message not to reproduce and kill themselves off, so it disappeared in 16 days. And this lady had the same thing I had behind her ear. And she luckily had Renew, so just in 3 weeks, it was almost gone. And then I always say this is our poster child, Rosie. Her son was a doctor, and he had been in a horrible car accident, and ASEA brought him back. He was able to heal. And she saw what it was doing for her son, so she got on it. But she came back to him 7 weeks later and just said, I feel great on this. I just don't see a difference in the way I look. And he looked and went, are you kidding, Mom? He had luckily taken a before shot, and he showed her, both the things. And she goes, okay, maybe I'll stay on it. So she looked even better at 86 and then 87. And this is her at 90. And she looks amazing. I mean, she looks like this should have been her at 90 and this should have been her at 84. And then I will go over, because you never know who's athletic or who likes to work out or whatever. And I say, this is safe for all athletes. And athletes started calling ASEA saying, I don't know what this is, but my endurance is so much more. I have a lot more oxygen. I feel like I can breathe so much better. And, what is this stuff? And this was when ASEA was first starting. So they did their own little VO2 test on several people. And they found that on average, it raised VO2 levels by 12%. Steroids give you 3%, and they're illegal. So 12% is a huge difference for athletes. And VO2 is the volume of oxygen before you hit the wall. So that's why athletes can go, so much longer in endurance. And then they did an athletic study at the North Carolina Institute of Research and found that literally we went into fatty acid metabolism within about 20 minutes of taking it. And that means you're burning the fatty acid around your abdomen and organs, and you're leaving the glycogen that most people use in marathons and stuff in your muscle and in your brain where it's needed. And they can pull on that at the very end of a race. So that's why the athletes can go so much further, and then they recover much faster because their body heals so much quicker. We've got athletes that have done marathons that weren't even sore the next day, which is pretty amazing. And then I talk about validations by all the third parties, and a lot of you probably know all these. I could go over them if you want, but we're protected by patents and trade secrets. They're moving more towards just trade secrets as the patents expire. So it's like the Coke formula. We never know how to make Coca-Cola. And that's where we're going. Bioagilytics is run by PhDs in the North Carolina Triangle. They test our batches because we say we're Redox, because that's what they do. They test for ingredients that are in products, and they stamp our bottles and gels to prove that there is Redox. That's what it is, Redox. Dermatest Labs tested all of our skincare so far, and across the board, about 20% in just 28 days, improved elasticity and fine lines and wrinkles gone, and more moisture, more hydration. They were really impressed by what this did. Torit Labs is who did our genetic testing to prove that we literally increased the genetic signaling a great substantial amount, 23 to 31% in immune, hormone, inflammation, cardiovascular and arterial elasticity, and hormones. And then sometimes I will show the hormone slide to show everything that affects. And then the North Carolina Research Institute is what I just told you about with the endurance and the athletics, and then Stevens, an associate. When we're young, our skin cells renew every 28 days. As we get older, that goes much longer. But this rubbing the gel on increases the skin improvement by 16%, the renewal, and rubbing the Renew on just one time, one application, increases blood flow by over 50%, and it stays up that way for 96 hours. That we've got Redox research centers, because my girlfriend sent me this when NIH granted the first one. She goes, look at what we've done. 10.5 million to the Medical University of South Carolina to open a redox research center. And then they followed it up with Cornell, and then Wake Forest and Vanderbilt and Harvard and the Universities of Virginia and Colorado and Nebraska and Stanford all have redox research centers. That's just in the United States. And then there's a yearly redox Congress where doctors fly in from all over the world to find out what new things are happening with redox. Gary Samuelson's been to several of them. Then I tell them about, this is the last slide, I tell them about, if you really want to do good research, don't go to Google, go to Scholar Google Scholar, and you can look up, there's over 16 million articles on redox research or redox signaling molecules. And if you go to the National Library of Medicine, it's called pubmed.gov, you can type in redox signaling and you find over 37,000 results for peer-reviewed studies done with redox. I want to thank you for your time. I hope you did learn something. I hope you found this interesting. But I'm here. You're welcome to leave if you need to leave, but I'm going to stay around and answer any questions that you have. And most people at this point, most guests fall into 3 different buckets, so to speak. And one is that you find this very interesting, but you'd like a little bit more information. And you'd like a little bit more information. One is that you didn't think it's maybe for yourself, but you know somebody that this would help and you'd like to refer us to somebody. Or one is that you completely trust, I'll use Rosie again, you completely trust Rosie and you want to get started right away.